Hello everyone, and welcome to another mini sky tonight. So this is part 2 of a discussion about life beyond our planet. As I mentioned before, one of the questions I sometimes get is there ET out there? And I discussed the possibilities in my last video of what it takes to have life on a planet. So I'll leave a link in the description below to check it out, so that way you can watch that video before you watch this video, because this is the second step. Because now that we have life, we have to have intelligent life in order to be able to communicate with us. And it's basically, we're discussing about life as we know it and life that's like us. So let's kind of dive deep into what it takes to have intelligent life. First of all, we have to define intelligence. What does it mean to be intelligent? What differentiates us from a microbe to us, other than simple versus complex? What differentiates us, say for example, a dog versus a human? Well, part of it has to deal with not only our anatomy, but our mental capacity as well. How psychologists defined intelligence is it's a being that's able to predict abstract thought or have an abstract thought. Some philosophers even say if they are able to understand the concept of cogito ergo sum, which means I think, therefore I am. The idea that I know that I exist and therefore I am an intellectual being. Basically, the next step is for understanding, to be able to take information and to understand what it means. To be self-aware, again, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. I know I am a being, I have thoughts. To be able to communicate those thoughts, to be able to reason with those thoughts, to learn, to gain new knowledge, and to problem solve, as well as to plan. So these are some of the things that psychologists and philosophers use to gauge what it means to be intelligent for any type of species. So how do we find life like us? Well, before SETI, or before the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, as the organization is called, people did believe that the life beyond our planet wasn't new. For centuries, people believed that there was other life forms or beings or spiritual beings out in the ethos. But it wasn't until Nikola Tesla suggested that you can receive radio signals from space, actually communicate with these beings, rather than having like a spiritual nirvana, but actually using science to be able to communicate with them. And in 1899, he used a radio signal to be able to find communications from something. And he did find his first signal. And he thought, well, finally, I was able to communicate with somebody. I received a signal from somebody, so somebody is communicating out there. Well, it turns out, after many years of new technological development and research, astronomers realized he did discover something, but it wasn't an alien being. It was actually a brand new type of star, which we now call today pulsars. In 1932, Carl Jansky developed the astronomical radio mission from Bell Labs to even take this idea further, to receive radio signals from astronomical objects and hopefully maybe be able to receive any type of signal from other sources, including Grote Redemer, who created the first radio dish, and he paid it out of his own pocket. He was that excited about it. And he was able to receive radio signals from the Milky Way and other things, and still people were searching. They were trying to receive signals from something. In fact, it was Jocelyn Bell who created this huge long array of antennas to find out signals. And in fact, through her study, she was able to find signals that were within a few seconds of each other in space. Sometimes they would call these signals like Little Green Man 1 or Little Green Man 2, but they actually turned out to be astronomical events. So is there an intelligent ET out there? Well, one guy, Frank Drake, took on this idea. Could there be an intelligent life form out there that we can communicate with? That there is that possibility that instead of just shooting out in the dark, are we wasting our time, or is there somebody out there and we should try to listening for signals and sending communications? And he came up with this beautiful equation, which is known as the Drake equation. and it discusses the possibility of life that is able to communicate that we can talk with now. The equation on the top is the simpler form of the equation, but the bottom one is his original equation. So the top one, just to kind of clarify it, is N is the number of civilizations that we're able to communicate with right now, has to deal with the number of habitable planets that are there, the fraction of those habitable planets that contain life, the fraction of the planets that have life that develop civilizations that are able to communicate, and the fraction of those civilizations that are able to communicate that we can talk with now. Pretty standard. But let's look at the original equation, because I like to go with the original equation because it talks about a few more steps that are very crucial. N, the number of civilizations that are able to communicate with us right now in our galaxy, has to deal with our star, which is the rate of star formation in our galaxy, the fraction of those stars that actually produce planets, the number of Earth-like planets from those fractions of planets. Next is the fraction of life that produces from these Earth-like planets. And from those that produce life, the fraction of those that produce intelligent life. And from those that produce intelligent life, those that actually produce civilizations. And L is the lifetime of said civilization that exists. Not only civilization, but civilizations that are able to communicate out to the stars. So let's look at all the different variables. So as I mentioned, N is the number of communicated civilizations. R star is the rate of star formation, the fraction of those that produce planets, the number of average habitable planets, Earth-like planets I like to call it, the fraction of those that have life, the fraction of those that involve intelligent life, the fraction of those that are able to communicate and produce a civilization of some kind, and the last, the lifetime of said civilization that's able to communicate. So let's look at the individual variables and try to put numbers into this equation. The rate of star formation is basically the number of stars that are born in our Milky Way per year. So our galaxy recycles itself constantly, and it produces brand new baby stars within a given time. Given its 100,000 light year diameter, it produces a few stars here and there per year. Drake estimated roughly around about 10 per year, but given current estimates about the material and the process of stars, it's roughly about 6. But for the final number, we're going to use Drake's equation because, as you'll see with the different variables, some of them aren't quite aligned up. And part of it is a lot of scientists are going, eh? So we're just going to use Drake's estimates for the final number because he was a little bit more optimistic. Okay, next step. The fraction of those that produce planets. Drake estimated that literally half of the planets, so hence why it's 0.5, it's a number between 0 and 1, about half of the planets are able to produce, half of the stars that are produced in our galaxy can have a planet. Current estimates, given we're looking for sun-like stars, we suspect that the fraction of planets could be equal or greater to 0.1. But again, that's more of a pessimistic side, but because we're finding planets that are around stars that we didn't think planets could exist around, including a couple of planets around a star that is semi-Earth-like. So I estimate roughly around about 0.3 or 0.4, but at the end of this, I would love to hear your comments on it. If you want to put in your own numbers, you are more than welcome to. In fact, you can leave your numbers down in the comments below and what your thoughts are. Next step, the average number of habitable planets per system. So the number of Earth-like planets that are out there. Drake estimated 2 planets per system. And this is where it's kind of controversial given the number of known exoplanets and their semi-major axis that are kind of Earth-like. It depends upon who you ask. Because if you talk about rare earth scientists, because given the right circumstances, the right conditions and everything, they say that the chances are of having a number of Earth-like planets around a system, given what we've seen so far, is 0. those that are for life, they've sometimes called themselves life ambassadors. They said that there's a good chance that you can have at least 4 planets that are Earth-like. So it really depends on who you ask and what they think about it. So like I said, since Drake is kind of in the middle of the field, we're going to go with Drake's numbers. Next step, the fraction of habitable planets that life would appear, or that those that produce life. Drake estimated roughly a good 100% because life is tenacious. If it finds a niche, it will fit it. Now, new estimates predict that it's possibly 0.13 or somewhere between 0.3, depends upon who you ask. And it has to deal with it took several years for Earth to finally settle down and to become a planet, like I discussed in my previous video, for life to be able to develop in that niche because it was so chaotic. As well as life doesn't just magically appear as soon as a planet appears, it takes some time to develop that kind of life, as well as how it adapts and changes over the course of time. So the chances of life, it's hard to tell. Now, we're just going to go with Drake's estimate because I know for here on Earth, we're still discovering new different types of life forms on our own planet. So the fact that there's possibility of life on our planet that we don't even know about and that we can find new estimates, let's go for it and let's be optimistic about it. The next step, the fraction of the planets that have life that all of a sudden creates life forms that are intelligent, that have that form of intelligence that we talked about. Drake estimated 0.01, like 1 in 100 planets, because many life forms don't evolve. I mean, let's take a look at a crocodile. A crocodile has the potential to become, say, something like a dolphin, which is highly intelligent, but it hasn't. And scientists believe the reason being is because it got comfortable. And it kind of can, and that idea can kind of apply to us too. The scientists believe that crocodiles got comfortable in their environment and they didn't need to become intelligent because they were happy and content with their current environment. They had all they need to survive. They had the basic needs, so they just thrived in that, and they didn't evolve or adapt any further than that. And the same can apply to us. If we stay comfortable where we are in our life and stick in our rut, we don't change, we don't adapt, we don't learn, we don't evolve, we don't become a better person. So allow me to get on a soapbox. Continue to learn. Never stop learning. You have the potential of being a better person every single day. You can be better than the person you were yesterday and the day before and so on. Keep learning, keep doing something that improves your lifestyle, whether it's going out to exercise, whether it's learning a new hobby, whether it's gardening, whether it's doing something to better our community. Do something that changes your life, that makes you a better person and all. Okay, off my soapbox. On to the Drake equation. Next step, the fraction of those planets that have intelligent life, that have a civilization, that are able to communicate out into the cosmos. Drake estimated roughly, again, 1 in about 100. Currently, we know that Earth is able to communicate, but we don't know of anybody else. So hence why we've been searching, like with Jocelyn Bell and Tesla and so on, we've been searching for those that have been able to communicate with us. But it's kind of difficult because we don't know if they're able to communicate. I mean, it wasn't until at the Olympic Games right before World War II that we were able to communicate out further into space. The first signal that was able to go beyond our planet was during the Berlin Olympic Games before World War II, when Hitler was promoting the Olympic Games, because he wanted to promote German ingenuity. He wanted to promote how great the German athletes were compared to everybody else. And he got really mad when certain athletes from other countries, especially a certain African-American athlete from America, beat some of his German runners, and he got mad. Needless to say, when it comes to that, because he boosted the signal to where it could leave Earth, those television signals have been going out for a long time. So sadly, Hitler is our kind of ambassador to the stars. is sad to say, but we have been sending out signals to space since then. So it wasn't until the 1900s that we've been able to communicate out with this. So it's taken a long time. So hence why it's such a low fraction, because it takes a long time for civilizations to build and to be able to create technology to be able to communicate out into the stars. And last but not least, the lifetime of such a civilization. Drake estimated 10,000 years, but for Earth, we've been communicating for less than 100 years. And the fact that things can and do occur. You could have a cataclysmic event like an asteroid impacting Earth. You could have countries that go to war. A lot of things could happen to where they no longer communicate. In fact, some people suspect that when we stopped using the old traditional rabbit ears, we stopped sending a certain type of signal because we started using other technologies to be able to send out television broadcasts. And since we didn't use the rabbit ears anymore, we stopped that kind of signals. So that's a part of the factor too. So with all these numbers and with all these concepts, let's put it all together. Once you multiply all these different fractions and all these different numbers together, you get roughly the number 10. And that means 10 civilizations that we are able to communicate with right this instant in our galaxy. And given over the whole lifetime of the galaxy, we should have over 10 million communicative civilizations, give or take. So where are they? Why haven't we been able to communicate with them? Well, there are a few odds against us, namely the distance between the stars. Now, radio signals travel at the speed of light, but keep in mind it's at the speed of light, and the distance between these stars is incredibly vast. Space is huge. The nearest star to us that's not our sun is Proxima Centauri, which is 4 light years away, meaning it takes 4 years for the signal to leave Earth and reach Proxima Centauri. And if the Proxima Centauri had a planet that had a civilization that could communicate right this instant, once they received the signal, it would still take 4 years for it to come back. That's if they saw the signal, read it, were able to understand it, and send a signal back. That's the closest star to us. That's the best option. But what about stars that are, say, hundreds of light years away, thousands of light years away? So they could take hundreds or thousands of years for a civilization to receive a signal and hundreds or thousands of years for the signal to come back. So that's a factor that's against us. We also have, maybe we communicate with civilizations that are in different stages. Say, for example, we send out a signal to somebody and this particular civilization that's, say, 100 light years away is in their Egyptian stage. Obviously, we're sending signals to nobody and it falls on deaf ears, so to say. Also, we have to worry about the lifetime of those civilizations. Maybe they were able to communicate with us, like us, but since they're so far away, by the time we try to send a signal back to them, they may be long gone. Because, like I said, if they're, for example, 1,000 light years away, we send a signal, and it's 1,000 years later, maybe our civilization doesn't come back. And also there's the communication barrier too. And also a limited range of our communication is against us. When we send a radio signal out, it only has so much power. And over the course of distance, that power starts to dissipate. Think of it as 1 over the distance squared is when we're sending this signal out that it eventually just starts to fade over the course of time. And so by the time it could reach a far off distant civilization, we may not be able to, the signal may be so jarbled or so faint that they may not really be able to receive it. So those are some things against us. But to quote Frank Drake himself, the chances of us finding civilizations out there, if we do not look, is always 0. But however, if we do look, it always is less. It's always greater than 0. So let's look. So in 1961, Frank Drake created the organization known as the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. The idea that there could be life beyond our planet. And throughout the years, SETI has done different projects and work with different organizations to promote searching for life somewhere. And they have currently the Project Phoenix going, but hard to tell what's going on right now. I know with COVID, it's really hard to tell what's going on currently, but we are looking for those organizations, or organisms that are able to communicate with us, those life beings. But is there life beyond our planet? Maybe. Could we one day all of a sudden receive a signal from somebody, like in the movie Contact? Maybe. It's hard to tell. I like to be optimistic about it, but I know it's hard to say, given we are barely trying to learn our own planet, all the different life forms that are on it, how our life evolved and adapted over time, and how we as a civilization are moving forward. So time will tell. And I look forward to the day when something brand new is discovered. So that's the idea of possibly an intelligent life beyond our planet being able to communicate with us, and could it be out there? If you have any questions or comments, leave it down in the comments section below. If there's a topic you would like for me to discuss, leave it down in the comments as well. Also, I would love to know what your numbers are. If you want to take the Drake equation for yourself and plug in your own numbers, by all means, I would love to see what you guys estimate and give your reasons behind it. Also, parents, if you're looking for some fun activities for your kids, FutureReadySA.org has a wide variety of different badges that they can collect that engages them in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and makes it a fun learning experience. I recommend the Astronomy Plus program because that was the one I worked with. So if you're looking for some fun, engaging activities, check out FutureReadySA.org, and I'll leave a link in the description. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, never stop learning. Make yourself better than you were the day before.